Summary video 10 is on chapters 18 and 19. Chapter 18 is on the law of administrative agencies. The first thing it talks about is administrative law, which is a statute or regulation that directly or indirectly affects an administrative agency. Procedural rule governs the internal process of administrative agency, and substantial rule creates, defines, or regulates the legal rights of administrative agencies and the parties they regulate. An administrative agency is created by the legislative branch to carry out specific duties. The types could be an independent administrative agency or an executive administrative agency. Reasons for growth of administrative agencies are flexibility, the need for expertise, prevention of overcrowding in courts, and expeditious situations or solutions. The creation of an administrative agency, enabling legislation, grants power to an administrative agency to issue rules, investigate violations of rules or statutes, and educate disputes. Legislative power is issue rules that have the force of law and are adhered to individuals and businesses. Executive power, investigate whether the rules enacted by the agency have been properly followed by business and individuals. And judicial power, educate cases through an administrative proceeding. The functions of administrative agencies are rulemaking. Run through the Administrative Procedure Act, which establishes the standards and procedures that must be followed in rulemaking and educative functions. They also do education of individual cases brought before administrative law judges by agency staff. Administrative activities like informal advising and issuance of guidelines. The steps in the informal rulemaking process is the agency drafts rules in consultation with interested parties. The proposed rules are published in the Federal Register. Interested parties can file written comments on the written draft. Final draft is published with a statement of purpose and cost-benefit analysis. And then the agency receives feedback and decides that the final draft should be rewritten, or if not, it becomes law. The 4 steps of adjudication: investigation and complaint, formal complaint and hearing, or initial or recommended decision, and the appeal to the full commission. The judicial review of educative proceedings: affected party can file a motion to appeal with the Federal Circuit Court of Appeals, and the court reviews the commission's legal findings to ensure that it acted in a constitutionally approved way, acted within the scope of its jurisdiction as outlined by the Enable statute, and followed proper statutory procedures and did not act in an arbitrary or capricious manner. The administrative activities of executives and independent agencies: advising businesses and individuals concerning what an agency considers legal or not, conducting studies of industries and markets, providing information to the general public, licensing business in areas like radio and television stations, and managing property. Talk about institutional limitations. Like the executive branch imposes limitations via the power of the president to appoint the heads of agencies, the power of the OBM to recommend fiscal year budget for agency, and presidential executive orders. Let's talk about the legislative branch limits powers through oversight. Legislative agencies exist in the District of Columbia. Utilities commissions, zoning commissions, real estate planning boards, and supervisory boards. The Supremacy Clause of Article 6 of the Constitution plays a significant role in situations where federal and state agency laws conflict. Talk about the global dimensions of administrative agencies in the United States, such as banks, security firms, commodities, futures, insurance, which they're all regulated by different things. Like insurance is regulated by state insurance commissions, and the banks are regulated by the Federal Reserve Board, the controller of the currency, and the state bank regulators. Moving on to Chapter 19, which is the employment, relationship, and immigration laws. We talk about wage and hour laws and the Davis-Bacon Act and the Fair Labor Standards Act. We talk about the Fair Labor Standards Act record-keeping requirements, like the employee's full name and social security number, their birth date, hours worked each week, and total hours worked each day, and then the total hours worked each week. Talk about unemployment compensation and the Federal Unemployment Tax Act, which provides compensation to qualified employees who lose their jobs. Talk about the Consolidated Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act of 1985. Workers' compensation laws, which provide financial compensation to employees or defendants when employees are injured on the job. The Family and Medical Leave Act of 1993, which guarantees that workers facing a medical catastrophe or certain specified family responsibilities will be able to take needed time off from work. The Occupational Safety and Health Act of 1970, which was designed to make the workplace free from recognized hazards that are likely to cause death or serious harm to employees. Talk about the OSHA process of establishing health standards. And the enforcement of OSHA. Penalties for things that violate OSHA, public education, and then state plans. We talk about the Occupational Safety and Health Review Commission, which is an independent body that reviews OSHA citations, penalties, and abatement periods when contested by an employer. The implementation of the occupational safety and the National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health, which is a research facility established by the OSHA Act. Talk about employee privacy rights, drug testing, which there's a lot of problems and other things that go on with that. The Immigration Reform and Control Act of 1986, which requires employers required to hire only legal U.S. citizens or authorized non-citizens. The eligibility of job applicants must be verified and enforced by the U.S. Immigration and the Customs Enforcement Office of Homeland Security. Talk about green card holders, visas, EB-1 visas. The global dimensions of employment law, its rights of employees in other industrialized countries are far more extensive than the U.S. Like Europe, they have generous family leave, guaranteed paid leave, and more vacation time. That's it for Chapter 19.